Well, good to have you back. I trust that you're all well rested after having a brief break, just a leg stretch as well as a quick refreshment for you to grab nearby. As we know, this is still going to be a very engaging conversation that will continue throughout the course of today. Now, before you perhaps might have slipped away to the tea break session, I'm hoping that you might have had some time to play around with the platform and actually identify particular elements of the platform that you'd like to participate in, specifically when it comes to the networking that will be taking place. There will also be several breakout sessions or breakaway rooms which will be made available for you to participate in. And that's to really get a closer, more in-depth conversation with some key stakeholders and partners in the room to understand some of the key concepts and conversations we're looking to host around critical conversations that you're close to. But coupled with that, there's also phenomenal pop prizes and quizzes that will be taking place. And that's all for you to win. Now, there's a great incentive behind this, but we'll keep you in the loop in terms of some of those questions that you can participate in a moment. But not only that, we also do want to strongly encourage you to keep the feedback coming on the chat services as well as the questions that you do want us to address. But the big announcement is that at lunchtime, as mentioned, there will be a networking session. And you might have noticed that unfortunately we had very limited time with Dr. Mamphele Ramphele. But if you join us for our lunchtime networking session, you'll be able to interact and network with her virtually, of course, as you would with a video call through the breakaway session, as she will be one of our special guests joining us with a particular table that will be allocated and designated. And of course, as soon as you get into the networking table, sign up, register, and you can engage her directly on key questions you'd like to have addressed. But we come back to one of the highlighting or underlying areas that has been quite critical in terms of investment and ensuring that we do alleviate the social challenges that we have in South Africa. And that speaks to education. It's the bedrock of human development and is quite critical to ensure that we unlock everybody's potential, because once we have human activity and potential that has been unleashed, then economic activity then can follow through as a consequence. But to lead this conversation for us, which is presented in partnership with Old Mutual, we'll start off with an introductory video to set the tone and the theme for us regarding this conversation, and that will be followed by a panel discussion where you too will be able to engage with us and key thought leaders in terms of how best we look to extract opportunities within South Africa's education centre, and most importantly, breaking down barriers to quality education. Allow me to introduce Khangisile Chaba, Head of Responsible Business at Old Mutual, with this brief message for us.
Firstly, as Old Mutual Limited, we appreciate the opportunity to participate at this conference. It has always been one of our biggest objectives to participate in any response that we need to do as a collective in as far as education is concerned. But more than just education, more than working with our partners, COVID-19 gave us an opportunity as an organization to respond and show up in a manner that says we are a responsible business. We are a responsible business that operates within the African continent. And of course, our biggest base is in South Africa. So COVID-19 was one of those unfortunate but opportunities that gave us time as an organization to respond. So there are 6 critical things that we responded to. Number 1, it was about continuous access to education. One of the biggest challenges that's facing the continent, especially in South Africa, is access to education. So ours was to contribute in making sure that there's going to be education that continues, especially through e-learning, through online learning. And then we also responded to the health sector. As we know, those who were in the front line of driving the fight against COVID-19 are our health workers and those who work closely to them. So Old Mutual, first of all, we put across a risk cover of 4 billion rand to make sure that those who qualify in the front line do actually get protected. And should there be any eventuality, the unfortunate one where people pass away, that we would be there. And then we were there responding through providing food, because food security in our continent is one of the biggest challenges. And as a company, we ensure that we participate in provision of food. We also made sure that in terms of how we respond, especially to the poverty issues that are facing our country, Old Mutual Foundation was key in driving our staff volunteerism, and we were also key in driving access to protective wear, particularly for our health workers and those who were in the forefront. So in the main, as an organization, we tried to cover as many aspects, but we did not do this alone. It was important for us that we understood that the fight against COVID is going to be won together with our partners. Once we responded to many aspects that were calling upon us as an organization to play our part, education was our key theme. Our key theme because we do understand that as an organization, firstly, we have our own employees who have their own children and their own family members who are dependent on education for them to have a brighter future. We also operate in societies where education is that biggest lever that can actually become the game changer in as far as how people's lives change for the better as and when they need to. And therefore, education for us comes as a natural because we are in financial services. And financial services is driven at the back of people who understand how to use money. And the language of financial services is about understanding some of the concepts that we can only understand through education. But also it's about securing the future of our children, of our young people, and yes, in the main, our adults as well. And therefore for us, it was important and it was just natural for Old Mutual to ensure that we sponsor, we support, we partner, but we're also in the main forefront of providing education. And I just want to talk highly level, just quick. Some of you may have been aware that we launched a big vision for us and for the continent to build Africa's biggest digital classroom. So this is also at the back of our long history of being involved in education and also at the back of long after we cease to exist as an organization. What is it that we want to leave behind? And therefore education is that one big opportunity that as an organization, as Old Mutual, we feel it makes us relevant. When we look at how COVID-19 was devastating, especially in the education sector, it really talks to how we have regressed, how our children were impacted in a negative manner, how the teaching fraternity was almost brought to a halt, and how our infrastructure that we thought was an infrastructure that's going to provide for the education that is required, it did not actually help to protect and to continue to provide the education that we need. So the impact of COVID-19 in education, we actually have not begun to understand generations to come how the negative impact is still going to show its effect. And as an organization, we understand that through partnership, it's how we're going to rebuild, through ensuring that we focus on the lessons that were learned. As one of the biggest investors in transformational infrastructure, as an example, we secure huge funds on behalf of our clients, together with our partners, and we create school fund to build infrastructure. We create funds to support education, but through COVID-19, some of the infrastructure, like brick and mortar, it didn't work. So going forward, it's going to be important that we learn what kind of infrastructure is needed going forward, and that's our vision of Africa's biggest classroom. Another issue that we needed to learn is that how you offer education content in the manner that we have always offered it is going to have to be different going forward. Our young people and our children need to learn differently. Our people who offer education, our teachers as an example, our educators and our professionals, they need to learn a different language, a different medium of teaching. So as an investment company, we're looking at how do we invest in a responsible manner in those type of interventions that are going to still offer access to education. What is important to also understand today is the scale at which we need to respond and the speed at which we need to provide some of our solutions. So gone are those days when we could still sit and strategize. Gone are those days when we only focus on what was key for our business as a financial services. We now have to partner with our stakeholders to ensure that as quickly as possible, we provide solutions that are going to be long lasting, but that are going to talk to how we understand the future of education, which is now different. So as Old Mutual, we are encouraging a continuous partnership, and we want to ensure that what we offer as an organization is going to indicate our seriousness as being a responsible business, but also how we create an enabling environment for our partners also to participate, particularly the NGO sector. One of the biggest things that is now the biggest challenge today, because of the economic downturn, it's very difficult for organizations, particularly in the private sector, to invest. And therefore, education is one of those things that we have no choice but ready to participate. And hopefully our partners, our peers, because again, the issues and the challenges of education is no longer just about competing against each other. It's about how we pull in together in order to provide the solutions that are going to secure the future, both for business, our society, and our customers.
I'm Chabele Mpadime Lucas, the principal of Kalafon Primary School in Mashadi Seket, Limpopo Province, in the heart of Skukuneland. The school was established in 1933. Old Mutual introduced this program of Triple D.
Because Old Mutual has taken us to workshops, to camps, they've also given us an opportunity of being under the SEED project, whereby we were taught how to deal with or to manage the other educators.
After the introduction of this program, the work that I was doing as a principal, SMT, and the school at large became very easier and smart. We started to have the voice of the teachers within the management.
Because of the laptops that we got and the computers from Old Mutual, I think our work here is simple.
Old Mutual donated a green kitchen to our school. Our learners are having fresh food almost every day. They live green life. I can say really recommend that this program is for these so wonderful things to us.
Our enrollment is too high because of they see what is happening at the school. It's different from other schools that are not under this project.
Old Mutual did not waste their money for taking us to training. Really, I can also recommend that this program be extended to other schools. For today, we are working so smart. Our primary is recommended to be the best improved school after the introduction of this program.
Well, that was opening remarks that we heard there from Head of Responsible Business at Old Mutual, Khanyisile Chaba, giving us some insight as to how it is that this corporate leader in South Africa has contributed to shaping and changing how it is that educators and students and pupils themselves receive quality education in South Africa by capitalizing and leveraging off of the benefit of technology. So gone are the days when having a cell phone or some kind of technological gadget would get you in trouble at school. It's actually now used as a fundamental tool able to share messaging and, of course, ease the levels of pressure on both educators as well as those students themselves. Now, this naturally comes on the back of a very critical conversation that we're going to host at the moment by speaking and understanding how best it is that we can improve the barriers to entry in terms of quality education in South Africa. Now, it's been noted in previous conversations that a large amount of our fiscus is allocated to our education budget, together with healthcare in South Africa. But if we take a look at the return, so to speak, that we get for investing in this particular sphere, it does leave a lot to be desired. But how do we ensure that even in times where we live with COVID, that we ensure that there's a leveling landscape in terms of quality access to education for all pupils, and adequate focus on the fundamentals of skills development and education training? Well, that's what we're going to deep dive into in our next session. And again, thank you to all of you who've been sharing your feedback on the platform. Loving the interaction. You really are giving us a lot of energy to participate in.